Have you ever wondered if you could create an aquarium entirely from nature? Plants, water, and life all from one location? Join me today as I gather everything needed to try and make a pond life aquarium. Let's get scaping. I've come to my local pond and bog to gather materials. This is the perfect place to find everything I need, especially at the start of summer when there's plenty of life. Just listen to these sounds. The pond is teeming with life. You can hear the buzz of insects, see the birds on the water surface, and even spot tiny fish just swimming below. Everywhere you look, there's something new and fascinating to discover. And that's why I want to capture even just a small portion of this scene. I'm going to gather water and plants from a couple of locations. Aiming to capture as much diversity and life as possible, I'm excited to see what surprises we might find. Already, we can see some movement, but I'm going to need plenty more water and materials to create our pond life aquarium. Adding some local plants straight from the pond's edge will hopefully introduce all sorts of life while enhancing the aquarium's natural beauty. I gathered a handful of pondweed, some reeds, and even a bit of duckweed. I spent a while longer gathering the plants, water, and materials from around the pond, and I really enjoyed the scenery. While aquariums can be beautiful, nothing beats the raw beauty of nature. I even got treated to the refreshing experience of some rain on the pond. With everything gathered, it's time for the build. This is the tank I'm going to use to create the pond life aquarium. I chose a smaller tank for two reasons. First, it allows me to easily view any life within the tank, and second, I didn't want to remove large amounts of pond material just for my own interest. Although the original plan was to only use natural found materials, I decided to use store-bought sand for the base instead. This approach saved me from removing too much material from the pond while still providing a good substrate for the plants and creatures. I added about an inch of sand to the bottom and used a scaping tool to smooth it out. While doing that, I also decided to include some pieces of stone. I'm not sure if they'll have any effect or even be visible, but they were just lying around, so I figured there was no harm in adding them. With the tank ready, it was time to add the water. To minimise disturbing the sand and causing a mess, I used a small pot to gently pour the water into. This method helps distribute the water more evenly and avoids stirring up the sand, which can create cloudiness within the tank. By carefully adding the water this way, I aim to keep the substrate in place and maintain a clear view of the setup. With just some water in place, you can already see a surprising amount of life. To enrich the setup, I decided to add a few more materials. First, I spread some leaf matter from the pond across the bottom. This will add to the substrate as well as providing a natural food source for organisms within the tank. Next, I added a chunk of pondweed. Pondweed is excellent for maintaining water quality, as it helps oxygenate the water and provides hiding spots for small creatures. Additionally, it should absorb excess nutrients and help reduce algae growth, which again helps keep the water cleaner and more balanced. Finally, I placed a bit of pondweed. Pondweed helps further oxygenate the water and offers additional services for beneficial microorganisms to colonise. These microorganisms play a crucial role in breaking down organic material and keeping the water clean. The explosion of life in the tank was apparent immediately, even though the water was still cloudy and filled with particles. As soon as the materials had settled, I could spot all sorts of creatures. Water boatmen skimming across the surface, water beetles darting around, creatures of all sizes were found everywhere. I even found a small fish making a brief appearance. It was incredible to see the sheer amount of life that can be found in just even a small portion of pond water. Despite the tank being quickly assembled, it has already given so much in return. Every time I looked, I spotted something new, some other creature that I hadn't seen before. The cloudiness of the water is just part of the process, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the ecosystem settles and evolves over the coming month. After the first week, the water had started to show signs of clearing, and life remains abundant. The initial cloudiness had begun to settle, slowly revealing a clear view of the ecosystem within the tank. It's fascinating to see new creatures appearing in various forms. Some of them I can identify, like the cranefly, while others are a mystery to me. But it's been great to observe the tank's inhabitants thriving. If you know the name of any of these creatures, drop a comment below and share your knowledge. Weeks 2 and 3 continued to show improvements in the water quality, and the amount of life seemed to peak. Everywhere I looked there was movement. Creatures were darting around or slowly making their way through the tank. Some even appeared on the surface. The water was clear, providing an even better view of the bustling activity within. My only worry now was how long the tank could self-sustain without the influx of new resources. Unfortunately, my fears were founded. The tank rapidly started dying off, with the plants being the first to go, followed by a number of the creatures. Algae began to grow rapidly on the edges, and an explosion of snails seemed to follow. But not all life was lost. There was still plenty of movement, and our fish friend was still around, alongside a new creature I hadn't seen before. However, this was the end for this tank. There was no need for me to let anything else die off, so I returned the water and the creatures to the pond. This has been the easiest aquarium build I've ever done. But it really wasn't so much of a build as it was an excuse for me to be a kid and play with pond water. I find myself in awe at the sheer amount of life that can be found even just a small amount of water, and greatly enjoyed the short time I had around it. It might be something I revisit in a future video, perhaps creating better environments and keeping it going for longer, but until then, thank you for joining me today on Lifescape Nooks, and until next time, keep creative and keep scaping.